Hi, I'm Dr. George Yancey. Let's share some paradigms. Paradigm share today is partisan ignorance. I remember a little while ago, I was on social media and I ran across Facebook, to be precise, and I ran across a comment from one of my more progressive friends. And he was bemoaning the fact that Republicans seem to be attacking judges. And he made the comment that, that never happens. Conservative judges never get attacked by Democrats or progressives. And I was kind of amazed because it wasn't that long ago that Justice Kavanaugh had an assassination attempt on his life. And that was big news. It wasn't like this was just a local event, a local judge. That was national news. It was right after information came out on the Dobbs decision. And so that was part of the national narrative. And yet this person who was well educated forgot about that completely. So I don't tend to want to have a big argument when I'm on social media, when I go to someone else's page, but I thought it was worth just noting that, yeah, there are conservative justices who are threatened as well. And he said, oh yeah, I forgot about him and moved on. Now, I'm not going to say that he lied, that he knew about it and he secretly typed this out. I think he really forgot about that event, okay? And that's my point. My point is, because he was of the left, he had an event that was there that I'm sure he heard about it and then forgot about it because it did not conform to his perspective. I'm not saying that he did this intentionally. I'm saying that this is something that tends to happen. I did a video on confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is our tendency to seek out information that confirms our previous ideas and to ignore information that does not. We look at evidence that supports what we believe. We give that evidence great weight and we downplay evidence that attacks our beliefs. And confirmation bias can be so strong that we legitimately forget events that will go against the narrative that we support. That's how powerful confirmation bias can be. I think that is what happened here. Confirmation bias and our partisan ideas do not go well together when it comes to finding out what's true and what's not true. Okay, before I go on, if you enjoyed this sort of conversation, please give this video a like, consider subscribing, tell others. Help build this channel so we can have these sort of ideas, looking beyond partisanship to really develop a more robust faith. Okay, confirmation bias is hard to ignore. The person who says, I am not biased, is the person to be careful of. They are biased. They may have less bias than normal, okay? But they are biased, and the fact that they don't recognize their bias, that means that they're blind to what they do not know. How often do we seek out information that might contradict what we already know or believe that we know? We don't often do that. And in doing so, we have an ignorance. We think we know the right answer because we're only looking at part of the evidence. If we look at all of the evidence, we might come to a different conclusion. And there's research that shows that when people are exposed to different ideas, they tend to moderate their level of confidence. Some people see that as a weakness. You get called a wimp or something like that because you're not out there. You're not fighting as hard as you possibly can. You're not totally convinced that your side is correct. You think that there's a chance your side may not be correct. And that could happen when you take in consideration all the different types of events or evidence that may be out there. Our partisan beliefs tend to blind us to data and information. How do we deal with this? The best way to deal with this is to be willing to look for evidence that disconfirms one's beliefs. And this is difficult. And just because you do it once doesn't mean you're going to continue to do it. It is a constant effort to make. And none of us, myself included, do it all the time. It's hard to do it all the time. You want to have a certain set of beliefs, of ideas that you rely upon, and not think about it, not question it. Sometimes things happen that force you to question it, and that's a good thing. I did a video on my crisis of faith that I had in graduate school, where I sought out information that what I believed about my Christian faith was wrong. And it was a legitimate searching out. I really wanted to know the truth. And I came to the conclusion that by and large, what I believe I felt was supported by information, by evidence, and I worked my way back to my faith. I don't live in a state of where I'm constantly searching like that. That was an important time in my life because it allowed me to come to some conclusions. Perhaps things will come up that I will go into another type of search for what is true. But to live like that all the time, it would be very difficult. What I should have is the willingness to dive into issues and to adjust my beliefs accordingly. Have you ever done that? Have you ever looked at issues that you're confident on, saw information, and adjusted accordingly? I can think of some cases where I have done that. I remember early back when I was in my 20s and 30s and looking at interracial relationships and thinking, well, they're exactly the same. I looked at some data and showed, well, they actually dissolve a little bit more than others. Didn't mean they're wrong, but that's something you have to take into consideration. That's just being honest. I didn't want to believe that, but that's what the evidence showed me. Do we do that with our partisanship? Do you become so convinced on the rightness or wrongness of immigration, or so convinced that, Trump is a savior or he's the devil? Or do we become so convinced of all these things that we can't look at evidence? Do we want to know the truth? Then look at the evidence that you might be wrong. And consider events that go against your narrative. I'm not asking you to not believe what you've believed. I'm asking you to test your beliefs, and not all the time, because, as I said, we can't do it all the time. Test your beliefs before you become so confident about your beliefs. Well, I hope this is useful to you. I hope you enjoyed this. And please come back. We can shatter some more paradigms.